Fall Guys is now in UEFN. In this tutorial, I'm going over everything, and I mean everything, including making your own Fall Guys course, making the obstacles, checkpoints, and ending the game actually work, etc, etc. So let's not waste any more time. Now remember, there's a few things you need to be aware of before we get started. Fall Guys Islands right now can't be published until August the 6th, so if you're watching this in the first 2 weeks of release, you can't publish any Fall Guys Islands right now. Also, this tutorial will be more UEFN focused, but you can create Fall Guys Islands in Creative 1.02. You can find Fall Guys Island templates basically the exact same as the templates here in UEFN in the Creative Hub menus. And unlike Lego Islands, you actually don't need a creator code to create Fall Guys levels. Another thing also to make sure of is that your Fall Guys Island is rated IRCE for everyone, or whatever the everyone equivalent is, otherwise you won't be able to publish. Keep it family friendly. Because of this limitation too, some islands, settings, and devices have been disabled, as you don't really need them, as you won't be running around shooting other Fall Guys with a gun or whatever. Other unrelated devices that aren't combat focused, that are disabled, may come in the future. Speaking of limitations, here's everything a Fall Guys can't do right now in terms of Fortnite movement, like sprinting or grinding on a rail. This could change in the future. Anyways, let's get to it. Okay, now to get started with Fall Guys Islands, you need to go into Island Templates, and at the top here, you'll see 5 different islands. You saw these earlier in the video, but each one of these is a different template that you can use for your Fall Guys Island. And also, apparently, these 3 don't work, so I'd suggest just clicking Starter Island. Once you click it, it's gonna create a new project, which is your Fall Guys project. Now I'm in the Fall Guys starter kit. Now this black void should be an ocean. I don't know what's happening, but now to explain this all pretty simply, I'm going to get rid of everything. Okay, now the ocean came back, okay? Now to get started with Fall Guys Islands, first you want to go into Content Drawer and then search up Fall Guys. And now in here, as you can see, we have every single Fall Guys prop and gallery and everything we need. You can search up gallery if you want the galleries. And there's 3 of them, and there's the Fall Guys components, the Fall Guys elemental, and there's the Fall Guys obstacles galleries. Now here is the components gallery, the elemental gallery, which is just this, and then the Fall Guys obstacles gallery, which is all of this goodness. Okay, now these are all the things you can use, okay? But before we get into them, there's 3 important things you need to know about first. The Fall Guys starting platform A to C, the Fall Guys finish platform A to C, and also the Fall Guys checkpoint A to C. Here's some Fall Guys starting platforms. Now these don't actually do anything. They're just a prefab. But so this is player spawn down here. This is where I would want to put my spawners. That's where the Fall Guys will spawn. Now remember, you don't have to use any of the Fall Guys props. You can use all Fortnite props with Fall Guys. It doesn't really matter. Now I'm gonna grab one of the checkpoint ones. I'm not gonna get all 3. I'm just gonna get one. And here's a checkpoint. And then finally, obviously, we have the finish over here, which you can use for your finish line if you want. Then with these 3 finish gates, you also have the funnel too. If you want them to fall down somewhere, you can do this as well. Okay, now very quickly, I'm gonna go into game and show you what it's like. Now here I am in game, and oh my god. So basically, the way this will work is you can jump, obviously. You press right click to dive. Now since this is creative mode, I can actually go and fly around, and I can actually grab stuff and start building if I wanted to. I feel like I'm in this little obstacle course. You can also mental as we jump and land on the side, you mental. So wow, look at that. Fall Guys work differently, where if there's a big amount of force onto them, they'll get flung into ragdoll mode. Oh well, look at that. Now okay, if I have a spawner here, and if I start the game, my Fall Guy will just spawn on the ground. Let's say if I place my spawner up in the sky somewhere, like up here. When I start the game, my Fall Guy will fall. And your Fall Guy can also swim. Another thing to note is that if you fall from very high up, you'll get a bounce. Okay, now there's a few problems, alright? There's a few issues, alright? The first thing is that when you're making a Fall Guys Island, this starting pad is just a prefab. Same thing with this checkpoint and this finish line. So you will need to manually make everything have its functionality yourself. And that also goes for all of these obstacles over here. You'll need to make them do stuff. But good news is that a lot of the devices in Fortnite Creative and UEFN are available to use in Fall Guys mode. So even if you didn't want to make a Fall Guys map, like in like an obstacle course, you can make a Fall Guys whatever you want, as long as it's, you know, family friendly and has no guns and stuff. Okay, first things first, I already have my spawn pad, but I kind of want to get over to that platform over there, the checkpoint. So how do I get over there? So in UEFN, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a few platforms that are moving so I can jump to here. Now, to make platforms actually move, you're going to need to use the cinematic sequencer. Okay, now I've placed my platforms. Now, to actually make a cinematic sequence, you want to go down into Content Drawer, go into Project Content, right click, go down to Cinematics, and make a level sequence. This is, I'm gonna call this platforms. first. Now, if you click into this, it's going to open up the sequencer. Here it is, right here. Now, I have a whole tutorial on the sequencer if you want to look at it in detail. But this is the basics, all right? So we probably want this platform to move forward and back. So I'll make it 60 seconds, and I'm going to put it up to 10 seconds. And all of these, I'm going to grab every single one of these by holding shift and clicking on everything. And then I'm going to add it to the sequencer, and it'll add everything to the sequencer. I'm going to click this little plus button, and then I'm going to press transform. That'll add a transform track to all of these guys. To make it so they loop smoothly, we're going to put the same keys at the beginning and the end. So to put those keys in, you want to press enter, and I'll make all these little dots right here. And then you can put another keys more towards the end, depending how quickly you want it to go back to where it wants to go. And then you want to press enter again, and now we have another key at the end. Now, to make them move back and forth, what you can do is you can go to around the halfway point, and then you can grab one, move it over here, and then you want to press this little key, the key it, move this over here, key it, move this over here, key it, move this over here, key it, and then move this over here, key it again. And now, if I play this, we should now have moving platforms. Wow, look at that. Now, to actually make these platforms move in game, because when you go into the game, they're not going to be moving by themselves. You want to switch up the cinematic sequence device. And then in the sequence, you want to add in the one we just made. You want to loop playback to be on, autoplay to be on, completion state override to restore state, and enable on-game phase will be always. And in-game, now our platforms are moving. Oh, look at this. See at the... Ooh. I'm terrible. I'm actually terrible. Oh my god, I missed the second jump. Anyways, okay, so we now have moving platforms. Now, these platforms are nice and all, but we got to our checkpoint. So how do we make a checkpoint? Well, it's pretty simple. You need to get a checkpoint. Oh wow, who'd have guessed? A checkpoint. But there's one issue with this, is that our checkpoint, it's kind of small. If somebody jumps on the platform here and runs across, they're gonna miss the checkpoint. So to fix this, we want to go into content drawer. We want to go into here. We're going to switch up mutator zone. Grab this, and now we have a mutator zone. Now, if you go down here, and then what you can do is instead of going into here and zone width and everything, just press R on your keyboard and then resize it to fit the platform. Then in the mutator zone settings, you want to turn off the effects. Then you want to go back into the checkpoint pad. You want to go into register, and you want to register a player when the mutator zone, when a player is entering the zone. And now, no matter where the player is, as long as they go into the zone, they'll register on this checkpoint. And now, just a side note, going back to the moving platforms, if you're in Creative 1.0, you want to use a prop mover to move them around. that's the one thing I should probably have mentioned. Anyways, so what I'm going to do next, I'm going to make some spinning platforms that spin around, because usually you want spinning platforms. Now, I'm going to use the same sequence, because we can just use the same one, doesn't really matter. And I'm going to grab something like this. Now, these don't spin automatically, but you can make them spin by, as you probably can guess, using the sequencer. If I add this again to here, and then I want to do the exact same thing I did earlier with the transform track, I'm actually going to add a folder. Now, to make this spin, you want to go over here. In this, you want to spin it to where it's about at 100 and or minus whatever, it doesn't really matter. So now if you spin it, as you see, it's going to spin. Now, one issue with this is that it's going to slow down before it reaches the end, which you don't want. So you want to hold the left click and select both the keys. You want to right click on one of the keys, and then you want to go down to linear. And linear will basically make it so it's constant rotation speed, so it doesn't look weird when the rotation ends. Now, while this is rotating, when the sequence restarts, since you have restore state inside the sequencer that we did earlier, as you can see, we have force restore state. When this ends, it's going to force restore state back to where it was, which is where it is right now. So when that happens, I'll go back, and then I'll do the same thing again. I should keep on repeating, and the player should not be disrupted by it. Make sure on anything you're spinning in the edit section, make sure quaternion interpolation is off. Otherwise, it'll just break, because it'll go the shortest distance, which is not what you want. Okay, now weirdly enough, the sequence is actually working in crate mode, but when I go into game, it stops working for some whatever unknown reason. So you can see spinning perfectly fine. This is how you make a spinning thing. Now, one thing to note is that just be aware there might be some bugs. All right, for example, of a bug, that was one of them. But as you can see, if I write this platform, and you look at that over there, if it ends, it's not going to repeat. You see that? Which is very strange. Even though I have repeating on, but then when I jump off, I lag. So I don't know if this is my internet or this is the game bugging out. But if it breaks like this for you, just know it's a bug. So yeah, it should be fixed soon. So okay, so it's a bit buggy, okay, but the thing is that this would work if it wasn't buggy, but it is. Well, what can I do about it? Okay, next up, after spinning platforms and spinning stuff, I'm going to make platforms that disappear if you stand on them for too long. Okay, on this platform, I'm going to add a device known as the trigger device right here, and I'm going to just put it on the thing right there, like this. Now what I can do is I can make it so there's no trigger effects or SFX, and also it's not visible in game either. But I'm going to add a trigger delay of about 2 seconds. The trigger delay is how long you want, so the player has a time to be on the platform before, you know, disappears. Now what we need to do is we need to go make another sequence. Make sure it's a separate sequence from the other one. And for every platform you want to make, you need to make it in separate sequence. So I want to add our platform to here, and once it's in there, you want to press the plus sign and then do actor hidden in the game, and then you want to break a key, and then you want to immediately after make it so it disappears. So now what this will do is it'll create a disappearing platform. Now to play this, you need to grab another cinematic sequence device. Bring it out, go into sequence, go into disappearing, and then you want to add no playback and no autoplay, and you want to keep state. And you want to play the function when the trigger is triggered. So now if somebody hits this trigger by jumping onto the platform, 2 seconds afterwards, because there's trigger delay, the platform will disappear. And let's say if you wanted to restore the platform after it was, let's say, removed, in the same sequence, what you can do is maybe about 5 seconds. Yeah, 5 seconds in, what you can do is you can make it so it will reappear, make it in key, but it's visible now. So now it'll be visible after 5 seconds. And you want to give the trigger 5 seconds of reset delay. But with this platform, we have it disappearing now, but there's one big issue. If I go in game and I try to jump on this platform, it's going to disappear, but you're going to notice something. I don't fall through it. So how do we make it so I fall through it? Add a new transform track. Add a key for this, but on the next frame, it says gone. I'm going to keep it visible for a second. You want to make it so it just shrinks. And if you can, if possible, in scale, you want to make it 0. So the scale will literally be non-existent. So now the thing will just disappear. And that should shrink down the collision too, making the player fall off. Now with these two keys, what you can do is you can click them, press Ctrl C with the copy. This is a 0 one, so you want to put it around here. And then we want to grab our other one, this one, and Ctrl C, and you want to put it over here at the very end, maybe a frame before. It comes back when the visibility is re-enabled. Now in game, if I jump on the platform, you're going to see now that I fall down. But you're going to notice something. I don't die, okay? I'm stuck down here. So how do I make a zone that will kill me, respawn me back up the top? Now they easily add a little zone that will, you know, reset the player. You want to go into conjure, sub damage, and here it is, damage volume. Now this will just be a death barrier. So if you can make it, crank it all the way up. You want to make the height like 1. Then you want to do damage type elimination. I want to turn off the effects, and that should be good. Okay, and now if I jump off the map, I will die. There we go. And now I will respawn back to where I want to be. Now I'm just going to move the finish line over here. And what we can do now, I know this course is a bit small, but it's for an example. So now what we're going to do is we're going to end the game. So if, let's say, you're done fall guying and you get to the end, how will the game end? Now this is going to be very simple, all right? First, I'm just going to grab a mutator zone like I did before, and I'm going to resize it so it fits the area of the finish line. Now this mutator zone will detect if a player is going into the thing or not. Now there's 2 ways we could do this. We can make the game end immediately once the last player reaches. We want to search up for the end game device, and what this will do is in the name it will end the game. So what we can do is you can activate it when somebody enters the mutator zone. Now you can end the game or you can end the round too if you wanted to, and you can do all of this. You can change all these settings if you want. But now once the first player reaches the end, it will end. But let's say if you wanted to do a race or something, like a race, you can do another thing. Delete the mutator zone, not the endgame device. And what we can do is go into here and we can search up race. And you can get something called a race checkpoint and a race manager. And this is more for cars, but you can use it for stuff like this as well if you wanted to. You want to make sure allow players to pass without vehicle is on. So this would be the final one. So we only want one of these because you have the other checkpoints. So this will just be the finish line, basically. Now also in the race manager that I also dragged out from here, you can set the number of laps you want. It'll only be 1 lap, unless you want laps. So you can do laps if you want. You can start the race in game start. You can add a navigation arrow on HUD. You can turn that off if you want. And you can turn off the HUDs everywhere if you want to either. If you didn't want any of this, like the race HUD, you turn it off. I'd say keep race time on maybe. And then another thing you can do is, let's say if a player completes the race and they'll be sitting here and we'll have to wait for all the other players. But let's say if you didn't want to wait forever for every single player to pass to the end, you can add a timer device. We're gonna add a timer device, and this will be the overtime until it ends once the first player reaches the end. So let's say once the first player reaches, there'll be about 60 seconds countdown before the game will just end. Now what we can call this is game ends in. That'll be a good name, I guess. Want to interact? No. You want to show it on HUD. You can also turn on urgency mode, which makes it more urgent, and you can make it so maybe like, maybe at 10 seconds. And then you want to start this timer when this checkpoint, when someone goes through this race checkpoint and completed. And then you want to activate the game end device when the timer on success, which is reaching the end. Okay, now in game, as you can see, we have like a timer at the top. Once you reach the end, it will then start counting down from how long until the round will end. Like there's the urgency, and then once it ends, oh wow, look at that, the game ended. Well, perfect. Oh yeah, one more last little thing. You can go into Outliner and you want to set up island settings, and in island settings you can change all the different settings about how many max player there is, if there's a free-for-all or co-op or whatever. More important ones in player and locomotion. You can change the gravity of the island. You can also change that if the player can mantle or not. So that's player flight, and you can also disable player collision if you want. And like I said previously, you have access to all of these devices here, like the traps and everything really. With a fan, you can add like one of these little propellers into it, and then you can maybe do an air vent that's here. And then you do this, and then you want to make it so it's invisible during in-game. And now we have a little thing that blows you back by, put a fan inside there, which I don't bother to, but you can do that. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. Remember to like, subscribe, and use my code in the Fortnite item shop. Remember to watch all of these videos for more of my content. That's about it. I'll see you all around.